Hi, I'm Sharmaine. Welcome to Curiosity Over Fear, where we have the difficult conversations about overcoming fear with courage and curiosity. So, whether you're looking to change something with your career or just everyday life, I invite you to join me on this journey to be less fearful and more daring. I went to my first pottery class today thinking the goal was to learn how to make something. I even had a list of things I already wanted to make. I was so excited. I was going to make food bowls for my dogs, little plates for dipping sauces, basically things for my home. And honestly, I thought the class was going to be very technical, like here's how you center the clay, here's how you shape it, here's how you don't completely screw it up. And we did learn those things. We learned how to cone the clay, how to compress it, how to open it, how to pull the walls upward. But what I realized was that this class, that wasn't the lesson. The lesson ended up being about relationship with the clay, relationship with control, relationship with ourselves. So at the beginning of the class, our teacher told us something that caught me off guard. He said he didn't want us coming into class focused on making something. And I was like, huh? What do you mean? Tell me more. And the more he kept talking, the more I realized this class wasn't actually just about pottery. It was about presence, it was about curiosity, it was about learning how to stop forcing an outcome long enough to actually experience what's in front of you. We even started the class with a meditation. He had us close our eyes and hold the clay in our hands, feeling its texture, smelling it, moving it around, noticing what emotions or memories came up. And I think what I loved most was that we sat there holding the clay and also setting an intention with it. The teacher invited us to reflect on the idea that the clay has its own essence and spirit, that we weren't there to dominate it or force it into submission, but to enter a partnership with it, to respect its nature and collaborate with it in the creative process, in our creative journey. And so when we finally started working with the clay, I was so messy. And I realized that I'm actually way more impatient than I thought I was. I thought I was a patient person. And I think also part of me assumed I'd be naturally good at this because I've always been creative and liked making things with my hands. But the second the clay wasn't immediately doing what I wanted it to do, I could feel myself getting frustrated. I caught myself thinking, this isn't doing what it's supposed to do. And our teacher kept reminding us that working with clay is supposed to happen with ease, not force. Then, toward the end of the class, he told us to experiment. Pull the clay more, make the walls thinner, push it until it collapses. Basically, he gave us permission to fail on purpose so that we could learn what the clay actually does. And honestly, I think that was probably the biggest lesson for me because the moment I stopped trying to make it perfect, my relationship with the clay changed. And that was the moment the clay reminded me how much energy we spend trying to control outcomes instead of building a relationship with the process. Because sometimes, even when we say we're being productive or goal oriented, what's really underneath that is anxiety. We want certainty. We want proof we're doing it right. We want reassurance that this effort will become something. But clay doesn't work like that. There's actually a story from the book Art and Fear by David Bayles and Ted Orland that this pottery class reminded me of. Um, the story is about a ceramics teacher divided students into two groups. One group would be graded entirely on quantity, just make as many pots as possible. And the other group would be graded on quality. They needed to make one perfect pot. And at the end of the semester, the best work came out almost entirely from the quantity group. Why? Because while quality group spent all their time theorizing and planning and obsessing over perfection, the quantity group was actually touching the clay. They were making mistakes, ruining pots, learning from failures, adjusting, experimenting, getting their hands dirty. In other words, they were participating. And I think that story says something really important about life because so many of us think mastery comes from thinking enough before acting. Like if we just analyze things long enough, eventually we'll avoid failure altogether. But that's not mastery. That's just fear wearing productivity as a costume. Real growth usually looks messier than we want it to. The people who become good at something are rarely the people waiting to feel perfectly ready. And I definitely need to remind myself that all the time because I never feel like I'm ready. These people are usually the people willing to be beginners long enough to improve. And honestly, I think that's part of why I created my journal, Mindful Curiosity, in the first place, because I realized that insight alone doesn't actually change us. Because you can listen to podcasts, read books, highlight quotes, understand yourself intellectually. But eventually, there comes a moment where you actually have to sit with yourself. You have to touch the clay. You have to stop theorizing about the life you want and start participating in it. That's what curiosity really asks of us, not perfection, not certainty, participation. The Mindful Curiosity Journal was designed to help people practice that, to slow down long enough to notice themselves, to ask deeper questions, to move from overthinking into awareness, from fear into exploration. Not because you need to become a perfect version of yourself, but because your life changes when you become willing to stay curious about it. So, if this episode resonated with you and you want a deeper way to practice this in your own life, you can find Mindful Curiosity Journal linked in the show notes. And if this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Connect with me on social media at Curiosity Over Fear. And if you think someone else could benefit from this conversation, feel free to share it. If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to leave me a review so that I can send you a free Curiosity Over Fear sticker. Then after writing the review, claim your free gift by taking a screenshot and sending it to me via direct message on Instagram at Curiosity Over Fear. Thank you for joining me this week on Curiosity Over Fear. If you haven't already, subscribe so you can get a reminder to tune in every other Thursday for new episodes. And remember, always ask yourself, what would be possible if you led with courage and curiosity?